Dear students, in today's episode, we are trying to provide some information about another kind of tourism, that is heritage tourism. And the topic can be divided into following subheadings. They are meaning and importance, types of heritages, tourist culture, World Heritage Convention, and role of UNESCO. Coming to the first one, meaning and importance. The nature has given us lot of resources for our use and enjoyment. Some of them have been there since the time immemorial. Man has also created a number of cultural assets. All these have been given to us from our ancestors. These have to be protected, conserved and promoted. Therefore, these are invaluable assets which have been inherited by us from our ancestors, which are to be passed to our children. These assets are our heritages. Heritages are legacy from the past and we have to pass it on to our future generation. These heritages are both irreplaceable source of life and inspirations. These are our touchstones, our point of reference and identity. Heritage is that precious and invaluable assets which have been inherited by us, which is to be preserved for our future generation. Many people think that all available resources are for our use only, but we are only the custodians of these resources. Therefore, it is our duty and responsibility to preserve all these heritages for future generations. Nowadays, tourism has developed into a global phenomenon. Most of the countries, both developed and developing, have established tourism as an important sector in their economic, social and cultural development. A variety of conceptions relate to the use of human past as a part of tourism. Of course, there must be a certain kind of attraction available on which the tourism concept may be built. This attraction may be from the human past. The use of history in tourism and many kinds of expressions are used like heritage, cultural traditions, food habits, fairs and festivals, living style, music, dance, paintings, folklore, museums, monuments, etc. Next is types of heritages. There are basically two types of heritages, namely natural and cultural heritages. Natural heritage. These are given to us by nature. They refers to outstanding physical, biological and geological formations, habitats of threatened species of animal and plants and areas with scientific conservation or aesthetic value. In other words, natural heritage is given by nature to a particular region or destination like mountains, forests, valleys, rivers, waterfalls, sea, etc. Cultural heritage. It refers to those monuments or group of monuments and buildings with universal aesthetic, archaeological, scientific, ethnological or anthropological value. Those properties which covers the living style of people like customs, traditions, dress, food habits, music, dance, etc. also come under cultural heritage. Tangible and intangible heritage. Tangible heritages are those that can be seen and touched by us. It may be natural or cultural. Mountains, valleys, sea, rivers, waterfalls, buildings and monuments, temples, Mosques, churches, etc. are tangible heritages. Intangible heritages are those that cannot be seen and touched but can be experienced like music, dance, paintings, folk culture, etc. The conservation and protection of these heritages is an important function and duty of every government and every citizen of the country. Education and creating awareness about significant characteristics of these places to public is essential for conservation and protection of these heritages. Heritage tourism have become an important source of income and a major source of information about the past. Therefore, heritage tourism refers to a trip to a place with the primary objectives of getting historic and cultural information about the destination. Cultural heritage tourism. It is a leisure trip with the primary purpose of visiting historic, cultural, natural, recreational and scenic attractions to learn more about the past in an enjoyable way. In a broader sense, heritage tourism embraces both ecotourism and cultural tourism with an emphasis on conserving natural and cultural heritage. It is a category or a market segment that includes historic sites, museums and art galleries. It is very difficult to exactly define heritage because of large number of activities that it covers. The cultural heritage traveler is one who wants experience authentic and distinct sense of place and is happy to pay for the privilege of doing so. Cultural heritage tourism not necessarily concerned about attracting new tourists. It is about attracting more high value visitors. People who prefers to stay longer and pay more for their wonderful experience. Culture is the differences between the people. Difference between people in their dress, food, customs, traditions, behavior, social practices, etc. has given birth to culture. The word culture would not have been there if there were to be no differences between people in their customs, traditions, food, dress, social habits, etc. Therefore, culture may be referred to as differences between groups of people who do things differently. Cultural differences can cause misunderstanding in their interpretations and create conflicts. In cross-cultural contacts, they tend to reduce interactions among the members of different culture. Therefore, analysis of intercultural behavior and its interpretation is critical. Culture has also been viewed as an important means of information and communication system. Cultural tourism is frequently used to describe certain segments of travel market. It may be associated with a visit to historical, artistic and heritage attractions. The UNWTO has given two definitions. In a narrow sense, cultural tourism includes movement of persons for essentially cultural motivations such as study tour, travel to fairs and festivals and other cultural events, visits to sites and monuments, folklore arts and pilgrimages. In the broader sense, it is defined as all movements of persons because they satisfy the human need for diversity, tending to raise the cultural level of individual and giving rise to new knowledge, experience and encounters. The cultural heritage cannot be strictly defined from the tourism point of view. They should be drawn from and imposed upon the local living culture of a community. This living culture is sometimes ignored in favor of historic cultures that are revitalized for the tourist experience. For cultural tourism, folklore is often seen to be more important than the folk in the destination. The tourists themselves bring with them their own culture and their own experiences. Resident culture. Resident culture is dynamic and developing concept. These are the culture practiced by the local residents or local community. They contain some point of fixity and some of historical memory, but they also adopt some new elements as they continue to develop. This places the cultural dynamics in forefront of cultural tourism. Tourists bring with them a set of cultural baggage. Both the tourists and residents should have open mind to understand and appreciate each other's culture. The cultural understandings and cultural expectations vary depending upon the time and place. Mixing of tourist culture with local culture should produce positive effects. This will result in the development of both the culture. Coming to tourist culture. Tourists bring with them a set of cultural baggage. Sometimes it may contain several different cultural elements. The cultural elements and expectations vary depending upon the region from where they come and time. It is the result of interactions between different cultures that enriches both tourist and local culture. The tourist must be informed in advance about the local habits, customs and traditions. Similarly, the local community should also be informed about tourists' culture. This advance information may result in mutual respect to each other's culture and facilitate interaction between them. Benefits of cultural tourism. It is the tourism involving the culture, especially the present and past living style of the host community, which is experienced by the tourists. The benefits of cultural heritage tourism can be far-reaching. It can strengthen the local economy, promotes resource protections, increase visitors' expenditure, generate employments, and help for preserving the unique feature of local community. It can also help the cultural heritage resources to generate enough revenue to preserve, protect, and promote further cultural resources. It assists the cultural heritage resources by augmenting revenue in appropriate and sustainable way. It can fortify cultural heritage resources through a stronger base of cooperation, fostering the recognition of economic contribution on a regional and community level. The local community bears the local culture, but they are not culturally isolated. The integration of cultural product within the fabrics of destination may have positive and negative impact. There has been considerable debate about the role of tourism in contributing for the positive or negative impact on cultural practices of local community. There are instances of cultural tourism helping for preserving of local culture. There are also arguments that the recreations of traditional cultures for tourist consumption can be a positive element within a culture, as it allows the cultural element to survive and reach new generations. Sustainable culture tourism. With the increased number of tourists to any destination, there is a great challenge to sustain it further. We have to strike a balance between consumption and conservation. Inherent in this concept is the notion of trusteeship. Those entrusted with the management of heritage have a responsibility to pass them on in good condition to future generations. The United Kingdom has taken a lead in the issue of sustainable tourism. In 1991, the government had set up a task force with members from public and private sectors who are interested in ecology, environment, and heritage. The task force examined various aspects of sustainable tourism and gave its report. The report mainly concentrated on three aspects of tourism, environment, and local community. It gave a set of principles to manage the relationship among these three components. The environment should be given top priority for sustainability. Its enjoyment by future generations and its long-term survival must never be compromised for short-term economic gains. Tourism should be recognized as a positive activity with the potential to benefit the destination as well as the tourists. Tourism activities and development should respect the scale, nature, and special feature of the place in which they are situated. Complete harmony must be established between the needs of the tourists, the place, and the host community. The report suggests techniques for controlling excessive use of the place, conserving the heritage resources, and ensuring maximum benefits to the host community. Its fundamental message is to create strategic alliance among all the stakeholders of the tourism industries. The following are the specific guidelines given by this task force. Tourism development should be based on the criteria of sustainability. It means that it should be ecologically bearable in the long run, economically beneficial, and socially equitable for local community. Sustainable development is a guiding principle which envisages the global management of resources so as to ensure their viability. Tourism should contribute to sustainable development and be integrated with the natural, cultural, and human environment. Tourism should guarantee an acceptable solution as regards its influence on natural resources and biodiversity. Tourism must consider its effect on cultural heritage and traditional elements of local community. Preservation and protection of local culture must be the top priority on any destination development. The contribution of tourism to sustainable development necessarily presupposes the solidarity, mutual respect, and active participation of all the stakeholders in the developmental process. An integrated planning process in the destination development should be ensured after involving all the stakeholders in the process. Quality criteria both for the preservation of destination and satisfying the needs of the tourist should be strictly adhered by the planners. All options for tourism development should serve effectively to improve the quality of life of all the people living in the destination. Environmental and cultural vulnerable locations shall be given special priority in the matter of its protection. The promotion of alternate forms of tourism which are compatible with the principle of sustainable development should be adopted wherever possible. All the stakeholders of tourism industry should promote and participate in the creation of network for research and dissemination of information and environmentally sustainable technologies. Travel industry should draw up specific programs for positive and prevention actions to secure sustainable tourism development. They shall monitor performance and report on the actual results. All necessary measures should be taken to create awareness about sustainable tourism development among all the stakeholders at regional, national and international levels. Moving on to the next one, World Heritage Convention. There are a number of natural and cultural heritages in different countries of the world. They were on the verge of extinction due to negligence. These are treasures of humanity which have to be preserved, protected and conserved to be passed on to the future generations. Therefore, there was an urgent need to take up the conservation. Since these sites situated in different countries of the world, international cooperation was required to take this work. The UNESCO took up the responsibility of protecting and conserving these invaluable treasures for the use of future mankind. The UNESCO seeks to encourage the identification, protection and preservation of cultural and natural sites around the world considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. This is embodied in an international treaty called the Convention Concerning the Protection of World Cultural and Natural Heritages, adopted by UNESCO in 1972. International cooperation. The idea of creating an international movement for protecting heritages emerged after Second World War II. During the war, there were large number of destruction of invaluable properties which have universal outstanding values for mankind. The idea of protecting these sites came from United States of America. A White House conference in 1965 at Washington DC called for a World Heritage Trust that would stimulate international cooperation to protect the world's superb natural and scenic areas and historic sites for the present and future generations. The cultural and natural heritage is among the priceless and irreplaceable assets not only to the particular nation where it is situated, but to the entire humanity as a whole. The loss through the destruction or disappearance of any of these most prized assets constitutes impoverishment of the heritage of all the people of the world. These heritages, because of their exceptional qualities, are considered as outstanding universal value and as such worthy of special protection against the dangers which increasingly threaten them. To ensure as far as possible the proper identification, protection, conservation and preservation of the world heritage, the members of UNESCO deliberated in the World Heritage Convention. World Heritage Convention. As a follow-up setup of the International Conference in 1965 at Washington DC, an international convention was called by UNESCO in November 1972 at Paris. 170 countries of the world participated in the convention. This convention deliberated in detail about the conditions of various World Heritage sites and their state of conservation. They signed an agreement concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage in Paris on November 16, 1972. This is an international agreement through which nations joined hands together to conserve and protect the collection of world's priceless treasure. Every country to the convention is called a state party. Its primary duty was to ensure the identification, conservation and transmission to future generations of cultural and natural heritage situated in its territory. Next is role of UNESCO. The UNESCO seeks to encourage the identification, protection and conservation of cultural and natural sites around the world which are considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. UNESCO, the World Heritage Mission, encourage countries to sign the World Heritage Convention and to ensure the protection of their cultural and natural heritage. Encourage the state parties to the convention to nominate sites within their national territory for inclusion on the World Heritage List. Encourage state parties to establish management plans and set up reporting system on the state of conservation of their World Heritage sites. Assists state parties in safeguarding their World Heritage sites by providing technical assistance and professional training. Provide emergency assistance for World Heritage sites which are immediate danger. Support state parties to create public awareness programs for protection and conservation of World Heritage sites. Encourage the participation of local people in protection and conservation of their cultural and natural heritage sites. Encourage international cooperation in the conservation of world natural and cultural sites. What makes the concept of World Heritage exceptional is its universal application. World Heritage belongs to all the people of the world, irrespective of the territory where they are situated. According to the convention, all the state parties have agreed that the World Heritage sites located in their territory and which have been inscribed on the World Heritage List without prejudice to their own national sovereignty or ownership belongs international community and to the entire mankind. All countries have World Heritage sites which are to be considered as national pride. The convention encourages each state party to identify and protect their heritage whether or not it is placed in World Heritage List. The World Heritage List reflects the wealth and diversity of the nation. Without the support of international community, some of the world's outstanding cultural and natural sites may disappear due to lack of protection and conservation. The convention is an agreement ratified by most countries of the world that aims to secure international assistance, both technical and financial, for proper protection and conservation. World Heritage Fund. The World Heritage Fund was created in 1972 at the World Heritage Convention. Its purpose is to assist the state parties in identifying, preserving and conservation of World Heritage sites. Contribution to the fund was made on voluntary basis. However, each state party was to contribute minimum 1% of their UNESCO contribution. Other income includes voluntary contributions made by member countries, donation by countries for specific purpose, etc. The annual income of this fund is just $4 million, which is very negligible amount compared to the requirement for restoration and conservation of large number of World Heritage sites spread in different parts of the globe. So students, hope you people enjoyed the above lecture. We will meet in the future episode. Till then, take care. Thank you.